name's Brian Dickinson, and I'm a systems engineer with Cisco Systems. I've been here for 5 years, and I've been on the Amazon account for all those 5 years. And I'm currently on a venture to climb the highest peaks on the 7 continents, so the 7 summits. And in the process, I visit orphanages and deliver toys, and just trying to use it as a platform to give back and do a little bit better for the world. This past April and May, I climbed Mount Everest, so I just got back a week ago. So before the climb, I visited an orphanage in Kathmandu, and I was able to showcase some technology there. I brought over an 871 router, a 3500 access point, and the new Cisco CS, and actually had the router configured for our CVO, or Cisco Virtual Office. So it's really doing an end-to-end borderless network. I also did a couple WebEx events. I did some live events from Everest Base Camp at 17,500 feet, and was able to keep people connected while I was up there. So I was on the mountain for just under 2 months, and during my summit push, I ended up, it takes about 3 days to get up to a position where you can summit. So you can be a strong climber, but then it comes down to weather, equipment. There's a lot of variables up there at that altitude. And I ended up getting ahead of the rest of the group, because they were not feeling as strong, and some were getting sick. And it was just myself and my Sherpa, Pasang Temba. We're heading up to the South Col, which is at 26,000 feet. It's the highest camp in the world, although otherwise known as the Death Zone. So I made it up to the South Col, even despite 70-mile-an-hour winds, and a lot of people were retreating. But my Sherpa and I decided to head up to the summit, 5 hours later. The risk was relatively low compared to other mountains that I've been on, but there's always risk on the mountain. So we started climbing at 7 p.m. on May 14th, and I got up to what they call the balcony at 27,500, and Pasang was pretty far behind. By the time he got there, he let me know that he wasn't feeling well, he'd been throwing up. So we went a little further, and he decided he had to turn back, and I was feeling strong, so I continued on. And it was probably 2, 3 in the morning, so he went back. He left an extra bottle of oxygen there at about just below 28,000 feet, and gave me his radio. So he headed down, I went up. So now I'm solo on the mountain. I'm the only one. No one else coming up from Tibet. I'm the only one on the South Col, or the Nepalese side. And at about 5:30 a.m. I reached the summit. I made the radio call, said, this is Brian, checking in from the summit of Everest, and you could hear multiple camps, people at the camps cheering for me. And I stayed up there and took a couple pictures of myself, since I was the only one on the summit. So when I turned to come down, I'm at 29,000 feet. I'm the highest person in the world at this point, all by myself. The sun's coming up, and because there's only a third of the air up there, the ozone is so thin, I immediately went snowblind. So now I'm alone on top of Mount Everest, and I'm blind, and there's no rescue parties coming for me. So I had to really dig deep and just stay calm, and use a lot of what I learned in the military. I was a helicopter rescue swimmer in the U.S. Navy for 6 years, and just really stay calm and just do what I had to do to survive. So pretty much the whole mountain has fixed lines, so it has ropes that are attached with ice screws and pickets to the ice and snow. And I had a harness on, so I rappelled down, and a couple times I kicked off avalanches, took a couple falls, but I made it down to where Pasang had stashed the other oxygen bottle. and I still had about 5% in my current one, but I wanted to swap it out, so I tried swapping it out, and it wouldn't work. So the little indicator would just show flat line, so nothing going through. So I put the bottle in my pack, and then continued down, and right below the balcony at about 20, right below 27,500 feet, I started suffocating, and I realized that my oxygen bottle had depleted on me, despite the indication that there was still some left in it. And I had been climbing for over 30 hours. I think total was about 35 hours. Continued climbing, like the hardest climbing I've ever done in my life. And I was exhausted, blind, and now I'm out of air. And I stopped. I was on pretty much an ice wall rappelling down, and I just anchored off and just got on my knees and just prayed. And then I just had a miracle. I swapped out my oxygen just to give it another try, and the indicator went up to positive. I was actually able to see a little bit, nothing in the distance, but a little bit closer up, and I rappelled the remaining mile, 20 pitches of rappelling, and made it down safely to the South Col. And it's just very happy to be alive. It was amazing being on top of Mount Everest, especially being alone. There's only a handful of people that have done that. And I was able to get back, and now I'm back here celebrating life, and just really happy to be here.